Hi, welcome to my knitting channel. Since my hair kept getting into my mic in this section, I realized that I have to do a little voiceover. What I'm explaining is that I really want to put up this pegboard to display my knitting, but I've been running into a lot of issues with these walls because they are basically all metal. But I did manage to find one spot where there wasn't metal. The pegboard is up and hopefully it won't come crashing down into my head during this knitting podcast. Okay, so my first whip today, if you've seen my Instagram, you've probably seen this striped sweater that I've been working on. So this is worked up in Lima. It's an alpaca and wool mix on 4mm needles. So I chose the color red and the light pink. I've been designing and frogging it as I've been going along, and I've been frogging it so much, honestly. My inspiration for this sweater was this sweater that I saw by a Portuguese brand called Gandaia. They had this kind of a knit t-shirt. The color was much narrower, but I really liked how they had the horizontal stripes on the collar as well. And I really wanted to create a sweater in that same style where you had horizontal stripes on the collar as well as the whole body. This is a raglan construction. You start knitting in the round at the top and work your way down. You knit parts of the shoulder here, and then I've got these stitches on hold, so it's going to be super easy to pick up and start the shoulder. I really like this construction because then you don't really need to do, normally I like to do like short rows on the arms as well, just to not have so much fabric underneath. With this construction of the sleeve, when you start knitting, the sleeve is already going to be slanted downwards, so you don't have that excess amount of fabric underneath the armholes. I'm almost done with it. I've been frogging it tons because I wasn't really sure how to finish the sweater, like the finishing touches on the body and on the sleeve, but now after 6 attempts, I know how I want it to be. So in the beginning, I thought that I just wanted it to be pink. So I did double knitting in pink. Didn't turn out the way I wanted it to be. When I was doing the double knitting of the body, I was quite ill. The goal here was to have a straight body. In order to have a straight body with double knitting, I would have to like cast on double amount of stitches before I do the double knitting, which I didn't clock in my brain when I was ill. That's why it's like cinching in right now. And that's not the look that I want to go for. So my idea is to have split here. So that split hits me exactly on my waist. And then it opens up like that, which hopefully will give the illusion that I have like bigger hips than I do. It will accentuate my waist, or yeah, let's see. Let's see if it happens that way. That was the idea. And have the double knitted finish so that it gives like that sort of heaviness to the fabric. I wanted it to look like one of those thick long sleeve t-shirts. They lay really nicely on the body, and I think it looks quite elegant. So that's what I'm trying to achieve here. I am currently finishing up the double knitting on the arm. So here, since I wasn't ill, I understood that I had to cast on double the amount of stitches. Planning to do like 2 more stripes of double knitting, and then I'll cast off using the Italian bind off, which I think will give a nice finish. So the sleeve will just be straight and the body will be straight with a split. Let me show you what I had issues with. So because I'm knitting in the round, and knitting in the round is not circular, it's more like a cylinder. when I'm switching colors, there's always going to be that little bit of a step. But here I was trying to use various jogless knitting methods when changing the stripes. I was so grateful for everyone on Instagram that sent me different methods. Thank you so much. I tried them all and they all turned out the same for me. So here you can see in the beginning that there's like a slip stitch instead of 2 rows. That's supposed to make the transition from one color to another better without that step, but it just didn't work out, and I probably should have been more strategic with where I did the swap, because the middle of the back is definitely like a very, oh my gosh, it's a very obvious spot, you know. I'm planning to do a second sample. I've already ordered some yarn, and for that I will definitely do the swap in a more strategic place, like probably at the back of that one of those raglan, at the beginning of the raglan stitch. Oh, Toto's so nice. Yesterday we gave him a bath, so now he's like a fluffy sheep. It's really lovely to touch him. For my birthday last year, I got this really beautiful, luxurious yarn from Lana Gatto from my mum. So this is 20% cashmere and then 80% fine merino. In the beginning, I was planning to make, there's like a cardigan jumper by Knit. I've always been admiring her designs. She's an architect, so she has a really keen eye for detail, and you can tell in her knitting patterns. So I really wanted to try out to make that cardigan jumper with this. She knitted hers up with knitting for olive merino, which has a similar gauge to this one. I think it's 28 by 32 rows. But then when I was thinking about doing the second sample, I remembered the sweater that I had when I was 14 years old, which had a really beautiful stripe combination of this dark green color with a dark burgundy and then a light blue. And I've always had that sweater in mind because I thought it was so cool and so beautiful, the combination. And that made me think, wow, I bet Lana Gatto has those colors, and they did. So I actually ordered more of this yarn in those colors. So I'm planning to either recreate that sweater and have like wider stripes, or try it with these narrower stripes. I'm gonna make some swatches and then I'll decide later. And then let me show you my other whip that I'm working on. So this here is my flower sweater that I'm designing myself. I've been knitting this over Christmas. I've used Sandnes Garn alpaca wool on 5mm needles, which looks like this. It's really beautiful. It's like 60% alpaca and 40% wool, which I think is lovely because, I mean, I love the softness that alpaca gives. It gives a really nice drape, but because of that, it doesn't really hold the shape well. I like it when they mix wool in with alpaca because then the shape holds much better. This is also very soft. So it's a similar blend to the Lima one. This is also, I think, 65% alpaca and then 35% wool, but this one is so much softer. So the gauge is 19 stitches for 10 centimeters or 4 inches, knit up on 5mm needles. And with this one, I've been frogging like crazy. So it's worked bottom up. I prefer to work it bottom up when I have a flower or like any sort of motif, because then you really see the motif come to life and you see if you like the idea or not. But if I write a pattern, I'm not sure if I will, because it's kind of tricky to figure out with the motifs. Everything needs to add up, the math. But if I were ever to write a pattern, I would probably write it top down. Most people prefer that. My main source of inspiration was definitely the Esther sweater by Scapel and Helene Mo. They did a collaboration together and they named that sweater after Helene Mo's grandmother. It also has the Selbu rose, which is a very known motif in Norwegian knitting design. They sort of invert colors midway through, which I think was so cool, and I love that. I really wanted to use that design element myself, and I really like Helene Mo's style. Like, she wears wool sweaters that are just way too big for her, and they sort of look like a tent, but like a very cozy tent. So that's what I was going for as well. I really wanted it to be super oversized. Instead of having an outer jacket, you can throw this on top of other layers that you're wearing. Another thing that's very typical for Norwegian knitting designs is to have quite a high neck, almost like a mock neck, and it's also double folded. I like to use this technique where I like decrease the needle size as I'm doing the color, so then it lies nicer and flatter. It's a little bit tedious, but I think it's worth it. And on the back, I wanted to make it obvious that it was a back, so that's why I have more purple on the back. But actually I kind of prefer this design. So for my second sample, I'm planning to do this for the front because I think it's nicer. By having more white space, the design shines a little bit more. And another big source of inspiration for this was a sweater that I saw called the Phrase sweater by Milotte and TAM, which are also Norwegian designers. And they did this beautiful scalloped edge at the bottom of the sweater. And I was just obsessed with it for ages. And I really wanted to find out how to make it. In the beginning, I was trying to like understand and do my own version of the scallop, but it didn't turn out the way that I wanted it to. It just wasn't nice. So I ended up frogging it. So now I will knit again. And I actually found out what that specific scallop is called. So Woolly on YouTube, she has really awesome stitch tutorials. So I found one where she did that exact scallop and it's called something feather and I can't remember, but I'll link it down below if you're interested. What it is like a repeat over 4 rows. You do it over 17 stitches. So for the first row you just knit, and for the second row you do purl, and then for the third row you do 3 knit 2 together, and then you do yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, knit 1 5 times, and then you do 3 SSKs. So that's what I'm planning on doing here. And I was super excited for a second sample of this, and I kind of got gifted some beautiful yarn by Hey Mama Wolf called Skadi, and I have it right here. This is the softest merino wool that you can get your hands on in Europe. It's from French merino sheep and it's called Merino d'Herlé. I think that's how you pronounce it. Probably not. I got 4 skeins in the white, and then I got, I think, 5 skeins in this beautiful green. It's called Lichen green or Lichten green, and this is new this year. So in the beginning, when I was ordering yarn, I was really going back and forth on whether to do this or a pink one, because on Ravelry, no one had any projects with this color yet. Plus on Ravelry, the colors of the people's photos look kind of flat compared to what it looks like online. So I was really nervous that this would turn out very great. But when it came, I was happy to see that it was that exact green that you see on the website, so very happy with that. This is what it's looking like so far, my second sample. So you can see I've done that type of scalloped edging, and I'm still deciding if I like it on the sweater, because it being green, it's kind of given like Shrek. My boyfriend actually asked me if this was a skirt, and I was like, what? Can you imagine? This would be like the most horrid skirt ever. I can't really picture the whole sweater at this moment. I can picture it as a skirt somehow, but not as a sweater. I'm also doing an outlined flower and then a filled in flower. And I think that's turning out quite nice. And I'm still trying to be very mindful of not having too many floats. I need to pick up the floats more in this design than I need to do on that design. But yeah, it's okay. It's not too bad. It has the same gauge as this one. So this is 5mm needles, gives 19 stitches. And if I size down to 4.5, I get 19 stitches with this yarn. The yarn is so soft, so lovely to work with, really squishy. It has that nice shine, but unfortunately it doesn't really translate to the camera, the nice shine, but in real life, I promise you, it has a really lovely shine. So I'm actually making this even bigger than that one. With this one, I have 5 repeats of the flower across the front. Here, I've actually got 6 repeats of the flower. So it's gonna be quite big. I absolutely love the scalloped edge, and my plan is to put these stitches on the needles and do the scalloped edge there. And then on the arm, I've also got to finish. So I put this on hold because I ran out of the purple and I had to order some more online. It's actually a discontinued color. If you saw the last podcast, you would have seen the socks that I made. So now I'm currently writing up the pattern for that. It's a very, very simple sock pattern. So I made those socks for my boyfriend's dad. So I don't have them with me. They're very simple. It's like 2x1 rib. You knit 2 and then you purl through the back loop, which I find when you do it through the back loop, it really just gives that ribbing an extra, a little bit more refined. I'm currently writing up a pattern for that. I use Sandnes Garn Perfekt, which is a really lovely sock yarn. It's 80% wool and 20% nylon. It's super wash. So I knitted that up on 4mm needles. The construction is very simple. You just do the leg with the 2x1 rib. Then you do the heel flap, and the heel flap I decided to make it in double knitting because it's quite an abrasive spot. You know, there's a lot of friction there. So to make it extra durable, double knitting, pick up some stitches, then you do the gusset, then the foot part, and then for the toes, since that's also a very abrasive spot where wool socks tend to get holes, I decided to do some double knitting there as well before binding off. So yeah, Very simple sock. I really enjoy it. And then I've got some yarn acquisitions. Right now I'm doing a test knit for my Marty sweater. The testers are currently getting yarn. We're all excited to start and we have a little Discord group. I really wanted to join in on the fun. So my first sample was knit up with BC Garn's Brisa and Svala, which are these really beautiful alpaca yarns. Brisa is a mix of alpaca, wool and cotton, and then Svala is just 100% alpaca. And I really like the Svala one because in a 50-gram skein you get 400 meters of alpaca, which is amazing. I love that. This is 50 grams, but it will give you 110 meters, so a little bit less. And the gauge is 23 by 15 rows. You knit it on 5 to 6 millimeter needles. Yeah, that's in testing right now, and I really wanted to knit up alongside my testers, so I thought, why don't I make my boyfriend one of these sweaters, because with the saddle shoulder it's easier to modify it so that it will fit a man. He's got quite broad shoulders and I haven't knitted him anything for ages, so I asked him if he would like a sweater and I showed him the colors, but he wasn't really in love with the color palette of these yarns. So them being new, they just came out I think in October last year. The color palette, it's somewhat limited, and he wanted a green, but he didn't really like the green color that they had. It was like a mid-tone green. He wanted a darker green. I saw one of the testers was knitting Drops Air, and I never tried that, so I thought, why don't I try that? I saw that they had a lot of beautiful colorways. Like this year Drops has some gorgeous new colors. They have like a dark grape color, which is so beautiful. They have like a dark marine blue that I absolutely love, and I was trying to pressure him to choose that one, but he did choose the darker green one, so I ordered that, and I'm planning to hold it with the brushed alpaca silk, give it extra bit of just fluff and softness, because that's what we're going for with the Marty sweater. So it's supposed to be like a cozy sweater that you throw on top of your pajama, you know, when you're just chilling, watching a movie. That's kind of vibe that we're going for. I'm excited to start on that. That will be good. And then I've got some other yarn that's coming in the mail this time from Kremke. Kremke is making a sort of silk mohair alternative, better for people with sensitive skin. Last year I was knitting up a spring cardigan with summer and cashmere, a yarn from BC Garn that I really like. It's like a blend of 90% cotton and then 10% cashmere, and it's just so beautiful to work with. Traditionally cotton is quite rigid to work with, so it can really hurt your hands when you're knitting with it over long periods of time, but adding that cashmere in there really makes such a difference, and I really enjoy knitting with that yarn. Anyway, so when I saw this new yarn coming out from Kremke, I immediately thought of that design and thought, how beautiful wouldn't this be in like a mohair-ish-esque kind of fluffy version. So that's what I'm going for, and I think it will be a really lovely spring cardigan that I can throw on top of dresses, wear with skirts in the evening for like that extra layer of warmth. So that's coming in the mail. I'm choosing the white colorway, but oh my god, how hard it was to choose a color. All the colors are really beautiful. This yarn is going to fly off the shelf. I think there's a real hole in the market for that type of yarn that has that halo, because it looks so beautiful and luxurious, but for people who are more sensitive towards it. That's what I've got going on. I'm really curious to hear about what you guys are knitting up. I know now it's like starting to get more towards the transition between winter and spring. I'm curious to hear if some of you have already started with spring projects. I'm not yet tempted to do that just because the weather has been so terrible for a long time, so I'm still in like winter knitting mode. All the ideas that I have are winter knits. Hope you're doing fine, and thank you so much for hanging out with me. As always, happy knitting, and see you in the next episode. Say bye, Toto.